Japan is stealing our idea of debasing their currency as fast as they can. What's going on here? It's driving the market higher. Peter Schiff says it's based on a fantasy. He's here to discuss. Peter, what's going on in Japan? They're debasing their currency. They stole our idea.
Well, it wasn't our idea. You know, they were debasing currencies a long time ago. In fact, when the founding fathers put us on the gold standard, it was because of their experience with the Continental. I remember the expression, not worth a Continental. So it's a long history of printing money. But, you know, what the Japanese are doing, it's proving again that old adage of insanity. You do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. But for some reason, the Japanese are blaming their economic malaise on the fact that consumer prices aren't rising. What they've really had for the last decade is price stability. And they used to say that price stability was a good thing. Now all of a sudden you need 2% inflation, and somehow if the Japanese can just force consumers to have to pay at least 2% more for the goods that they need every year, that somehow this is going to revive the Japanese economy. Well, you know, they say be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. I think you're about to see a big dose of consumer price increases in Japan based on a weakening yen, and that is not going to be good news for the Japanese economy.
But it's good news for the dollar.
Consumer. It's going to be bad news.
Right, but currency's all relative, and if everyone debases, it's hard for anyone to really be debasing. The dollar's been on a torrid run versus the yen, and that's dollar strength, which is kind of the cornerstone of a lot of what we're talking about, that the dollar has to go weaker. Well, not if Japan's printing as fast as possible, at least not relative to them. How does that not just spread out to other currencies?
Well, that's about the only currency the dollar has been strengthening against. You can look at a lot of other currencies where the dollar is weakening. But if all the central banks debase together, then everybody's going to have inflation. I mean, there's no, you know, get out of jail free card. If we all do it together, then we're all going to suffer. But, you know, the Japanese, their goal is to create demand by debasing the yen. But you don't do that. You destroy demand because you destroy the purchasing power of your citizens. The Japanese now have to pay more money for everything they import. Look at the utilities. Utilities are having to jack up prices dramatically. That affects Japanese businesses, Japanese households that now have to pay more for these basic necessities. Look, even we were talking about the Big Mac in McDonald's. McDonald's just raised the price of a hamburger by 20%. I think a cheeseburger 25%. They hadn't raised prices in 5 years. Now they're doing it. Prices are starting to go up. And here's the problem that Japan's going to face. The Japanese government has an enormous amount of debt, and they're paying next to nothing to finance it because prices have been stable. But as prices start to rise and bond investors start to price inflation in to Japanese bond yields, the Japanese government can't afford to service the debt. And now you have a huge crisis coming as interest rates rise.
But they've had a crisis for 30 years. They've had a crisis forever. Now they're getting their Nikkei high. They're giving them the same punch that we've given. Everyone's all giddy pants over there because the Nikkei is finally up to 14,000 again for the first time in who knows when. This can go on for an extended period of time because it seems like we didn't invent it, but our formula has been as long as you got the Dow going higher, then everyone will just be quiet and be all opiated and just sort of hang out. So how long can this go on for Japan?
I don't know how much longer it can go on. How long will Japanese citizens sit on these low-yielding JGBs, especially if the government says we're gonna get 2% inflation, and you're sitting on a bond that yields 0.25%, and the price of everything is going up? Why would you sit and hold on to those bonds? So there is a crisis coming. The difference is Japan is in much better shape to withstand the crisis than America, because we're both making the same mistakes. Japan has been doing it from a stronger position than we have, and so I think that we're going to have a harder time when interest rates rise. But it's not going to be a picnic in Japan either.
No, it's not a picnic anywhere. Hey, folks, there is no free lunch. Japan's going to go ahead and debase its currency. It's going to end in tears, but then again, they've been crying for about 30 years. We want to know what you think. Is this Japanese scam going to work? Are we going to end in tears? Peter Schiff, the author of The Real Crash, says yes. Why don't you comment down below or drop us a tweet? Let us know what you think.